Okay, we will call this council meeting of January 9th to order. I would like to acknowledge that we are holding this meeting on the unceded lands of the Mi'kmaq. Let's stand for the singing of O Canada.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Lost it. Okay, record of attendance, everyone's here. Any declarations of conflict of interest, anyone? Okay, you can declare the item agenda if you wish. Approval of agenda, that the agenda be approved as circulated. Please, Councillor Cleveland, second by the deputy. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Approval of minutes, and we just had one meeting, which was Town Council December 12th, please. Okay, Councillor Dare, second by Councillor Lesser. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Okay, we are all the way down to new business. So the wastewater, under number 11, wastewater treatment facility upgrades, that council not award the tender for the wastewater treatment facility, electrical and structural upgrades, and re-tender in 2025 as recommended by staff. Okay, Councillor Cleveland, second by Councillor Bell. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. Expense reimbursement policy, that council amend the expense reimbursement policy to update the round trip allowance to Halifax to $325. Okay, Deputy Mayor, because you travel so much.
Right. What's the rate to
Councillor Hatfield, any discussion on this one? All those in favor? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Not discussion, but just kind of more of an explanation as I talked to our CAO about this. It's basically because of the mileage had went up, and I think there was some staff or other people on council who were going to different places in Halifax, and this just gives it a flat rate for everyone going there, so it looks the same on the books and everybody knows, correct? Perfect, just for public knowledge.
Yep. Good, thank you. Did we vote? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. 11C, recommended motion is that council grant up to $500 for an African Heritage Month celebration. Okay, moved and seconded. Discussion. Go ahead, Deputy.
Just a big thank you to the town. Every year, the $500 goes to putting on a something. We always try to have some local history when we do it. Last year we did it in conjunction with the Tri-County Regional Center of Education. We held it at the high school, very well attended. Chuck Smith spoke about the wonderful monument in the Black Battalion, and we're hoping this year maybe to team up with Greenville and some people on our EDI committee and maybe work towards having something together, kind of collaboration. But just wanted to say thank you for council for always supporting this, and it's nice to be able to get some, cultural awareness out during the month.
Thank you. Any further comments? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Okay, we didn't have the committee of the whole. Citizen advisory committees. Do you want to take that there, Councillor Cleveland?
I will. Thank you very much, Your Worship. Now, the first one I'm going to request an amendment to. The recommended motion is that Council pass first reading to the proposed development agreement, Attachment 1, to allow for a total of 3 short-term rentals at 1 Jenkins Street. And I'm asking that it be revised from 3 to 5 short-term rentals. The property is approved for development of up to 8 regular rental units, but what's being requested is consideration of allowing 5 units and that they be allowed to be short-term rentals. They can move back and forth between the two, but to have permission for the 5. So that's a long recommendation, but I'm not sure if we have to vote on an amendment or we just okay it.
There's no motion yet, so you can make the motion as well.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion on this one? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried.
Thank you. Next one, recommended motion that council pass first reading to the proposed development agreement, attachment 1, to allow for a total of 2 short-term rentals at 25 Willow Street.
So moved, seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Okay, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Committee. I have the deputy and I have Councillor Lesser. Who wants to take? Oh, okay. Do you mind taking that, Councillor? Go ahead.
First motion is that council appoint Dylan Nickerson to the Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Committee for a 2-year term.
Okay, we just need a seconder because he makes, okay. Councillor
And just
Lacroix.
to speak
Yeah.
on it, that was a position that was open from somebody who resigned previously, and he had put his name in to serve on that, so.
Yep, thank you. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Go ahead.
Second motion, that council direct staff to paint the Frost Park gazebo, Beacon Park gazebo, and the Town Hall walkway rainbow.
Okay, so moved. We got a seconder. Okay, moved and seconded. Okay, discussion. Councillor Bell?
Thank you, Your Worship. So this flows from a discussion we had in October, and I'm amazed that that the committee has met and come back so quickly with recommendations. It's great. The way the motion reads, I think that they're requesting all three recommendations, and if I recall the discussion, I think the intent of the motion was for the committee to bring us 3 recommendations for us to consider one. I'm not sure, but that was certainly my intent in the motion, was that they could choose 3 options that were acceptable to them, that met their needs, and then council would have an opportunity to consider them. And that was how I imagined it. So I've been doing my own kind of prorating of which one I think is the best, that best represents the intention. And I certainly, I'm really happy about the idea of connecting Frost Park to the town hall, because when I think about the original intention or thought of a rainbow, to me it represents inclusion. Rainbows are all color. They represent everything. And when the town made the decision to hire a equity, diversity, and inclusion coordinator and to action its rhetoric, because we have had rhetoric for some time about what we support, but actually backing that up with something that's actionable, having a coordinator, building a committee that can advise us, that to me represents the rainbow, or, the walkway represents to me a visual representation of that intent. And so for me, my first choice would be the sidewalk. And I'm not sure how other people perceived the motion, but I'd be happy to hear other people's thoughts on it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I can speak it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I believe they thought it was 3 that they were voting, like they were making a motion for 3. I think that, I'm not sure what the intent was, but I do know, I think the wish of the group is that something is done actionable. And to be honest, I voted in favor of this to begin with, because they came up with the idea and that was our intent. I think I think we have a lot of groups that need representation, and I think it's important that we recognize all of them. And I think a good start for us would be to consider 1. I don't really have a preference over one over the other, but I do believe they think it's 3. And I don't know if somebody else wants to answer that, but I have a feeling they'll be okay with 1 as a starting point of starting to do this, because we have other marginalized groups that we have to look at. How do we incorporate them into our community as well? So I can't really speak on behalf of the committee, but I think they would be happy to see us move forward with something. And I think the only reason they suggested 3 is because the wording sounded like they should come up with 3. So
I love the work that was put into this. I do, and it did. You're right, Councillor. It came back quickly, which is great, because that gives us time to move into spring, get some stuff done, because nothing will happen in the winter, really. I just think that when we make decisions like this and these types of things come up at the council table, they are based on our values, and we're representing the community, so based on the community values, and I think one of those is, the value of a safe community, that this place, when I was asked, and I was asked, why did you put the pride flag up for the first time? And my answer was always the same, because we want to say this is a safe, welcoming community for everyone. And like Councillor Lesser said, you have to start somewhere. When we look at the work of the committee, it's for equity, for diversity, for inclusion. So we have to do that second part. We have to make sure that it's not just one group, that we're encompassing everybody. And that's a hard one to do, because I started the list like it's everything in the world today, because we're not just talking about Yarmouth, because I think the world is kind of flooding into our geography, because it's a small world. But it can go from women to our Indigenous communities, person with disabilities. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Youth, our youth at risk, mature workers, everybody. Gender minorities. Everything touches on something that we want to be very protective of, that we want to help, that we want to make sure we do that. So I'm also good with starting somewhere, as long as we make it very clear that we're going to start, but we're going to somehow bring in those other groups and make sure that when someone reaches out to us that it makes sense. I think I'm just one of 7, but I believe right now we've got a choice in front of us. I can tell you how I feel about. I guess I'd paint Beacon Park first, because it's a gazebo. It's around kids. It's going to teach them. The colors would be great. I personally wouldn't touch the gazebo in Frost Park for a lot of reasons. I feel like, to me, Frost Park is almost sacred ground. It's a graveyard, first of all, and maybe we take the bench, which was moved for reasons, no other reasons except that it was getting bumped into when they were plowing and stuff. So if we took that and moved that up to Frost Park and had that visibility there, because we have the Indigenous bench there, which is stunning. Do we know where the African Nova Scotia bench is now? Remember, it got a little bit of, it was down by, something happened to it. So we need to redo that, and maybe there's a space where we have, the representative benches, and people are feeling safe, and this is my little piece of Frost Park. But Frost Park is also, people get married there. People, they're taking pictures, and they want, I guess we want that just to remain kind of neutral in that way, except for the spaces it would take up. And for the walkway, the first thing I'm going to say is, whatever paint they're using there, I know there's different sidewalk paint. I know that because we can't use something that's not safe. So if Chad and the team can find that, I guess I went out and looked today, and that walkway from this corner and up around the corner, which leaves space for the other groups to be represented, because you can't just have one rainbow and one set of colors, and that doesn't mean it might not happen for 5 years. It might happen in 6 months for other groups to come forward and say something like that. So it's about sharing space. I wish that the community and the world in general believed that the rainbow represents everything, but I'm not sure that they do. So it would be speaking to the community as one group. So we just want to be careful of that. But I'm good. I'm good with one. I'm good with two. I'm just not okay with the Frost Park gazebo, because it's just too. It's just the use of the space and what it stands for, and yeah. So that's where I am. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Well, first off, I think I have the same understanding from our previous discussions as Councillor Hatfield, in that we were asking for 3 recommendations so that council could choose one. That was my understanding. So I'm wondering if that was lost in the interpretation. When you mentioned about the bench, like moving the bench down, the Pride bench down to the park, I love that idea. In fact, I'll be presenting at the next committee of the whole about an additional bench in Frost Park that will be purple. And so, and it'll be meaningful. And I think that's a nice way of representing different groups in the community. I am reluctant to say, paint everything, because this committee is relatively new, and they may have other groups that step up and come into them and say,
Yeah.
we'd like to have representation too. We'd like to have be identified in some way. And so I think, let's walk before we run on this one. So I'd be in favor of choosing one, but not choosing all 3. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
I know my mic is still on because I read the motion, but I think just important for the public to realize is that it is an equity, diversity, and inclusion committee, and there's a huge difference between equity and equality. And the difference being equality is everybody should be treated the same, and I think every human on the planet should strive for that value. But equity is trying to make up the difference for those marginalized communities that haven't always had the same freedoms that that the rest of the world has had. So it is a bit of a hard one sometimes, because people will say, well, how come one group gets something and another one doesn't? And equity is trying to equal that playing field some. And I know it's not something every person agrees with. It's one that I hold quite dear, and I think it's important. But I would love to see a world that equality was the way forward. But I think equity helps us get there. And going back, I think they would be delighted if we chose one. And I do know, like, the first one they brought up was the Beacon Park gazebo. I let them make the decision. I didn't really weigh in. I voted in favor of it in the end. But I know the Beacon Park one was the first, not their first choice, but the first one they brought up. So.
I'm good with that. I'm more than good with that one. Go ahead, Deputy.
I agree. I thought the original intent was to have 3 come back to us and we pick one as well. So I think the Beacon Park, very close to my house, actually I can see it from my back door. I think it'd be really nice to look across and see that rainbow gazebo there. Also, my job at school would kind of speak to equity and equality a lot. And a saying that I always like is, equality is making sure everyone has a pair of shoes. Equity is making sure everyone has a pair of shoes that fit. So I think we picked the best fit here that does it, and we continue to do our work as we go along, as we continue to explore all our cultures and people in our community that deserves proper representation. So I'd be happy to support Beacon. I don't know if we have to redo the motion or whatnot, but glad to see things come forward so quickly and happy to support.
So, go ahead.
Well, I'd be prepared to make a motion, and I really like the idea of Beacon Park gazebo because,
Me too.
quite honestly, it's attached to a playground.
Yeah.
It's not I just like the idea that youth would be exposed to it. So that would be my motion, is that we choose the Beacon Park gazebo and we instruct that to be painted.
So we have, can we do that? Well, let's do it. No, yeah. So you moved it, the first motion. Who seconded that? Was it you, Deputy? So are we okay to withdraw that? Okay, good? Councillor Bell?
Thank you. Just a picky point, but in the motion, can we refer to it to the bandstand and not the gazebo? Because it is a historical, it's not a building, but it's a bandstand, and it used to be right over there, so,
Did it really?
yes. Yeah. Thank you. And I think that the Beacon Bandstand is a perfect choice.
Yes.
It's a great start. And you can help them understand that this is a start. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So the motion's gone. Go ahead there, Councillor Dares.
To instruct staff to proceed with painting the bandstand at Beacon Park in pride colors.
Okay. Seconded. Further discussion, anyone? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, we have all the reports for information there, which is, thank you for that. This is great. It really is, like we don't have to go searching for, don't have to go search for it. Questions for committee chairs, anyone? Go ahead. No, her light's
Me?
not on. Yeah.
Okay. No, just to bring your attention to the fact that the Communities in Bloom Committee met yesterday. The decision was made some time ago, or there was discussion some time ago, whether or not we should apply for a repeat of our national symposium. And so two things. Number one is that given that the Communities in Bloom, Town of Yarmouth Communities in Bloom has won a national award, that qualifies them to compete internationally. So the decision was made yesterday that we will be entering an international competition in 220 this year for 2025. And the recommendation is that we would apply for the 2027 national symposium to be located in Yarmouth. So it basically goes east-west across the
Yeah.
country. It's in Ontario this year, which is central. It'll go west next year in 2026, and so we would apply for the eastern one in 2027.
So is that the one we did before?
Yep.
Is that the same level?
That's the one we did in 2000
Because the world
19.
was here. We say national, but the world was here.
Oh, yeah, it's a national symposium, but we had representation from Italy, France, Ireland,
Hungary was here.
yeah, there were a number, and the
Yeah.
US.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Yes, a lot.
absolutely, so.
Yeah.
In fact, ironically, it's the Irish that make the biggest. There was a little tiny village in Ireland when we had the symposium in Victoria, and 18 showed up. So I think half the population of the village was there. But yeah, it's extremely popular. So we
Lunch
thought
with the
that if we did win the national or the international competition in 2025, it would be putting us on the map.
Perfect.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? Councillor
This
Hatfield?
is more of an update, I think, and a question than it is about committee chairs. I just wanted to bring it to council's attention that the Municipal Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee is without a chair. And I was asked the question today, I'm a representative on the committee, hasn't met. There isn't a chair because the chair did not win election. And I think it's the responsibility of the retention committee to appoint the representative for the Community Navigator Oversight Committee. There have been some conversations about what that's about. So I guess the question I'm asking is process, like, should someone who has been appointed to the Municipal Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee suggest that there should be a call for the meeting? And if that is to happen, who is the responsible person? I think there is a support person. I believe there's a support person for the, is it Barb DeViller, possibly? So it's just, so the question was asked of me today, because I'm the town's representative, but I'm not a representative on CNOC, at least the town hasn't appointed me because they don't appoint, I don't think. But I have been acting as though I'm a representative on CNOC because I was an alternate in the last, and I'm just unsure of, sort of like the official position, and I don't want to overstep my authority. So just that question to put in process.
You're so much more diplomatic than I am.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Go
So
ahead.
if I understand, you're looking for a meeting of the, right, okay. So Barb DeViller has been the admin support person for that, but why don't we make a motion to request a meeting of that committee, and then staff will action that and get it going.
To make a motion that there be a call for the Municipal Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee to meet.
Okay, seconded. Discussion on this one? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Anyone else here? And this doesn't just have to be questions for committee chairs. If you have any questions in general, anything you want to share, by all means. It's your meeting. Okay. Approval of invoices. Okay, moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Good thing, Wade, because we signed them. I had a January 1st stack of checks. It was a lot. Date of next meeting is February the 13th. I gotta check and see if I'm here. It's crazy, the schedule's nuts. If I'm not, good, I'm good. All right, and anything in camera?
Two items, Your Worship, legal matter and negotiation matter.
All right, okay. So let's make a motion, please, to go in camera. Thank you, Deputy and Councillor Lesser. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. All right, thanks, folks.